Hello everyone, watching today's video, going to have a look at weather next week, 10 days. In today's video, this takes us into November, so we're just about to go to Bonfire Night with this update. Actually, later on today, this evening, probably around 7 o'clock, we'll have a little update for Halloween and Bonfire Night. A couple of events that are coming up over the coming few days, where people like to know what weather's going to be doing. So we'll have a look at Halloween and Bonfire Night for you this evening. But this video will cover that time frame, not particularly in depth, however. So the idea over the last couple of days that models have been playing with this idea of getting a northerly wind going next week, taking high pressure up towards Iceland and Greenland, running low pressure down to the east of Scotland through the Norwegian Sea into the North Sea, and turning wind into the north. That's kind of been dropped a little bit by the models today, or I should say perhaps a little bit put back, really. Whether we ever get this northerly wind in, I'm not sure, because it does appear that as we're getting closer to the time frame when models wanted to do it, which was around the 1st, 2nd of November, they're kind of pushing it back by a few days. So whether it actually ever verifies, we'll have to wait and see. But I'll talk you through everything that's going on in a second. To suffice to say, it is a little bit of a letdown for people who want some colder weather in the early part of November, but it's by no means over this idea at the moment. So we'll talk you through everything that's going on right now, actually. So we'll start off having a look at Central England temperature from Hadley. It's updated to yesterday, so it's provisional up to the 25th. We currently stand at 13.3 degrees, an anomaly of 2.3 degrees above average. So an exceptionally warm October so far, coming out at 13.3 degrees. If we have a look at the Trevor Harley's weather website, and we can go back with the CETs right way back to 1900 with this, we can see that we are very close to having the warmest October on record. So we don't yet have October's number, of course. That will be filled in that box just there. But the warmest October on record is quite a way back, actually. You have to go back to 2001 for the warmest October in terms of the central temperature region. Anyway, I think it's also the case for the UK as well. Go back to the year of 2001, which comes out with a CET of 13.3 degrees. That's the warmest October on record. And interestingly, that is exactly where we are right now, provisionally at 13.3. However, I think we're going to fall just short of that record for two reasons. So the final few days of October will be a little bit cooler. May even get a night frost on Sunday night into Monday. And that's going to take a few tenths of a degree off that temperature. So that probably takes us down to around 13.1, something like that. Then there's usually a downwards correction as well by about 0.2 or 0.3 of a degree. So I think we are going to fall some way short in the end of this October CET record from 2001, as I say, which came out at 13.3. I can't see how we can remain at 13.3 where we are right now in the next couple of days, and I think we'll get a downwards correction as well. So I anticipate we'll probably finish up somewhere close to 2006, which had a CET of 13.0, possibly ever so slightly under 13, maybe something like 12.8 or 12.9. In any case, it is going to be a very warm October yet again. We've had quite a few of these over the past few years, so another really warm October. Our last sort of coldish October was in 2012. This year just here, which came out with a CET of 9.7, and again in 2008 came out with a CET of 9.7. I'm sure you remember October 2008, which had some snow right at the end of October and was kind of like the first warning really that was going into a bit of a colder phase, which we went through from the winter of 2008-9. Well, actually started probably in the summer of 2007, but in terms of winters, started with 2008-9 and went through to 2012, 2013. Ever since, we've had very mild winters, of course. And our last really cold October, just while we're on the subject, you have to go a very, very long way back for that. 2003 comes out at 9.2, but the last time we was under that, we went under 9 degrees, very, very long time ago now, 1993, which had a centering temperature in October of 8.5, and 1993 was our last, what you'd describe really as a very cold autumn, with all 3 autumn months coming out significantly colder than average. So a very, very long time ago now since we had a really cold October, and also since we had what you would describe as a very cold autumn. Really, really long time ago. I'm sure we'll get one at some point, but it certainly isn't going to be this year. Right, have a look at the Arctic Oscillation and North Atlantic Oscillations next. So this is the Arctic Oscillation observed and forecast chart from NOAA. The black line here tells us where we've been with the Arctic Oscillation. The red lines at the end where the GFS ensembles are forecasting us to go. So the Arctic Oscillation is just an index that's reflecting the state of the atmosphere. It's not driving anything, it just tells you what the atmosphere is doing. In this case, it's over the pole. And the same is true with all the indexes that we look at. So there's the North Atlantic Oscillation, the Quasi-Biennial Oscillation, QBO, the SOI, Southern Oscillation Index for the Pacific Ocean, and others. They are all just reflections of the atmosphere. None of them are actually driving the atmosphere, they just tell you what's going on. So the black line shows that we've been generally positive with the Arctic Oscillation going back into the summer. We can go back to July with this, generally positive with the AO through most of the summer and into the autumn as well. Went a little bit negative there in the second half of September. Then we come back up with the Arctic Oscillation through the first half of October. Where we are right now is very close to neutral. So we have seen a decline in the Arctic Oscillation. GFS ensembles, though, are really split. So we've got some members of the GFS ensembles that are going well down into negative AO territory. However, several members of the GFS ensembles are going into positive territory up there. So a real split in terms of what's going to happen with the Arctic Oscillation as we head off into November. Now remember, when the AO goes negative, it tells you you've got blocking up over the pole, you've got high pressure over the pole. That's the route to pushing cold air out of the pole down into mid-latitude. When the Arctic Oscillation is positive, that tells you've got low pressure over pole, got a strengthened polar vortex essentially, and you'll be strengthening the westerlies through the mid-latitude, which for us in Europe and the UK, that is a mild Atlantic driven signal. So you couldn't really look at that and make a prediction about what will be happening in the early part of November. However, I think the broad thrust of the model is probably to go positive, actually, which does negate from the chance of colder weather through early November. North Atlantic Oscillation is the same idea. Again, we've got the black line here telling us where we've been with the NAO, the red lines at the end telling us where GFS ensembles are forecasting the NAO to go. Quite interesting what's happened here, because the two indexes have been out of sync for the last few months, really. Both of them positive here in July, but went through to the second half of July and August. The NAO went into quite a long run of negativity, a little bit positive again there, and then negative again in September. So we have had both of the indexes out of sync. The AO generally been in a positive phase, the NAO generally been in a negative phase. Where we are right now is that the NAO has also gone positive through October, as we see there, but right now we're just on the negative side of neutral. It wants to turn things a little bit more negative running into start of November. However, through the early part of November, this period just here, the trend is to move the NAO upwards in towards positive territory. So looking at these two indexes, they aren't saying to me that we're heading into a prolonged period of colder weather. You can get cold snaps, of course, with the AO and the NAO in positive territory. It doesn't rule out the chance of getting some colder weather, but to get a sustained run of cold weather, really you have to have particularly the AO going into negativity. We aren't really seeing defined signs of that at the moment. Right, have a look at weather next week to 10 days. We've got the Penn State University website here. We've got the 500 millibar high anomalies from the Penn State University website, PSG website. So we've got the ECMUF here on the top. The GFS, have a look at it in a moment, is on the bottom. 500 millibars, 80,000 feet is an area in the absolute high pressure and low pressure are being moved around by the jet stream running above. Blue plates, low pressure, red to high pressure. You can see what's going on with the ECMUF. It has this ridge out in the Atlantic, so it has got a mid-Atlantic ridge. It's trying to get it up towards Greenland. If it got it up towards Greenland, it would push this trough that's over Scandinavia southwards. What's actually going on, though, is that we're just on the periphery of colder weather. So we're doing something a bit like that with the jet stream, running it through rather like that. And as I say, we just placed on the cold side of the trough. The trough here is bringing that cold air down, but it's moving it down sort of into Scandinavia and eastern, northeastern parts of Europe, which actually leaves us with more of an Atlantic type influence. GFS is very similar. It gets the ridge a little bit further towards Greenland, towards the south of Greenland anyway, but still the main thrust of the colder air through this early part of November. Remember, it's taking us into the 7 to 10 day time frame, which takes us through the first week of November. The main thrust of the colder air is through Scandinavia and then down into eastern and probably eventually southeastern Europe. We saw a lot of this last winter, actually, where the cold air was continuously running down into the east and the southeast of Europe with these troughs, and in the northwest of Europe, keeping an Atlantic influence with the jet stream going through there, and the ridge not quite going far enough north to push that cold air down from the polar regions. So these are the GFS temperature and precipitation ensembles for the next couple of weeks. Looking at Belfast today over the Irish Sea. So we've got the red line here, which is the 30-year upper air temperature average. We're warmer than average at the moment, or we're around average today, but we are going to be going warmer than average over the next couple of days in Belfast. As we get through to the end of the weekend into next week, have got a cooling trend, but not as clearly defined as it was yesterday. Now, several members of the GFS ensembles are still going for this northerly wind through the course of next week, the middle and last stages of next week. But you'll notice, really, it isn't, there isn't good agreement on it, and there's a lot of scatter. The model has backed off, the ensembles have backed off from this northerly wind. As we go through to the extended part of the GFS ensembles, which is this period just here, you'll notice coming out very, very close to average. In terms of precipitation, so a lot of dry weather coming up next couple of days, more precipitation coming through next week. Dealing with the surface temperatures and air pressure next at Belfast. So we look like this at the moment. With above 10 degrees Celsius just about, a little bit of a warming trend up towards the weekend, then cooling down a little bit. And then through the course of next week, when you will expect this cooler phase to be setting in, we're looking like this. So we're sort of around 10 degrees Celsius at Belfast over the first week of November, which is quite chilly, but it's not sort of the cold conditions that look like we might get a few days ago. In terms of air pressure, it looks like this, quite high with the pressure actually in the next few days, then lowering into next week, but not going particularly low with air pressure. A lot of scatter, some members of the ensembles are quite high with pressure, some members are quite low. Let's have a look at the temperature anomalies for the next week, the 26th of October to the 3rd of November, coming out milder than average for UK and Ireland, as is for much of Europe still. I was expecting these to be looking cooler than this by now. Still nothing really particularly cooler than average being seen, other than maybe around Norway, also some western parts of Russia, and also interesting into the southeast of Europe. But many parts of Europe are actually going to have milder than average temperature anomalies from the 26th of October to the 3rd of November. East-west split continues with precipitation, so many western parts of Europe coming out drier than average, central and eastern parts of Europe coming out with above average precipitation anomalies, as that cold air digs in from Scandinavia into eastern, northeastern parts of Europe, some of those precipitation anomalies will be signalling rain, some of them could be signalling snow. So finally, just have a look at the GFS and ECMWF for the next week to 10 days. So this is the GFS for Sunday. We do get a punch of cooler air coming through later in the weekend and into the start of next week as this ridge builds in across the country from sunny to Monday. That could give us that frost on sunny night, which is one of the reasons I don't think we'll get the October CET record. I don't think this will be the warmest October on record. I think 2001 is safe with that. Beyond that, so we go through to middle part of next week. This was a period when we're going to get that northerly wind, you'll remember. By Wednesday, still not really lowering the heights to our south. That's one of the problems with this. We aren't having the low pressure deepening to our northeast around here, forcing wind into the north, and we're not really lowering the pressure around Spain, Portugal and France. So a little bit of a cooler northwesterly flow coming through there, but not the northerly shot that we was looking at a couple of days ago. However, beyond that, the latest one of the GFS is 6 o'clock. It does want to try and build pressure around Iceland again, so it does actually get the wind into the north at the end of the week. It delays it by a couple of days, but by Friday the 3rd of November, northerly winds are coming in. They are bringing some quite cold air down, particularly to northern eastern parts of the country. This trough over Scandinavia and digging down into Central Europe, that is really very cold trough indeed. So the idea is still there, it's just we're more on the periphery of it, and it's been pushed back by a few days. By the time we get through today, 10, which is Sunday the 5th of November, Bonfire Night, we finish up with this ridge collapsing down across the country. That could give us some frost for Bonfire Night if it came off. ECMWF looks like that, so the first punch of air from the north over the weekend, that is okay. The ridge topples over the country, probably giving us a frosty start to Monday. By Tuesday, weather's coming back in from the Atlantic, probably milder with some rain at times. And then do we get this northerly shot as we go through to the second half next week? Not really. This is how the ECM sees things on Thursday. We're not taking that ridge to the north. We're not bringing the wind down from the northerly direction. So we just have kind of like a continuation of reasonably mild-ish and mainly dry weather into the second half of next week. The ECM does eventually get there, so this is how things look by day 10, which is Bonfire Night, Sunday 5th of November. The wind's turning into the north then, pressure's rising around Iceland and southern Greenland, wind's turning into the north, and that's trying to bring proper cold air down from the north from the Arctic. So the ECM does still go for this, it's just pushed it back by around 3 days. And if, of course, if the models keep doing that, if they keep pushing this back, then we'll never really get there. So it'll be interesting to see whether we ever do get this proper shot from the north or not. The AO and the NAO indexes are very inconclusive about whether pressure is going to rise enough to our north to deliver this shot of cold air. As I say, the models are still going for it. They haven't cancelled it, they've just kind of pushed it back. GFS pushed it back by a day or two. ECMWF has pushed it back by around 3 days. So we'll just have to wait and see how this plays out. It may never come to anything in the end, but we will keep an eye on it. We'll see how things develop, and of course we'll be keeping you posted. Now later on today, around 7 o'clock this evening, we will have our first update for both Halloween and Bonfire Night, so come back for that this evening. But that's all for now, and thanks for watching.